Welcome to MJ Hobby Corner. In this video, we'll see a short battle report on the game Deep Wars. In this particular game, we have the Fortune Seekers versus the Nereids, a very customized Nereid force using proxies from other manufacturers, since I don't own any actual Nereid models. But I think it was a cool force, to say the least. All right, without further ado, let's check out this underwater battle. We begin in a massive yet shallow water shelf, a part of the even greater north face of the Weddell Seamount. This is the Antarctic Sea, the same sea now known as the Shadow Sea, where an underground continent was discovered nearly 80 years ago. The ledge, which our game will take place in, is simply identified as the North Shelf. It is a region full of rocky formations, submarine ravines, silty plains, and great sponge gardens. A small party of fortune seekers under the French flag have set up an expedition to the North Shelf, hoping to find the wreck of the French submersible Nautile, or Nautilus, now resting in a sandy plain surrounded by the Gerlach Peaks. The Nautile was carrying newly discovered artifacts from an expedition to the Abyssal Trench, when it mysteriously sank several months ago. But unknown to this new expedition, this is Nereid territory. The Nereids are a collection of merfolk and Triton races newly discovered to the south of this seamount. Nereids are extremely territorial and do not take kindly to humans taking ancient artifacts from any of their territories, which includes the west face of the Abyssal Trench in the region. There are challenges, however. The wreck is now home to an angry eel and is surrounded by leg-severing barnacles on one side. A large placoderm fish, though not aggressive, can become aggressive if a diver comes too close. A giant scorpionfish also rests lazily near the resting place of the wreck. The Nereids have discovered the arrival of the submersible Triomphant thanks to their many scouts and spotters. The Nereid force is composed of a treasure seeker, a Piscid salvager, which is a fish-like being, followed by a Nereid guardian, mermaids who guard the secrets of ancient magic with a zealous seal. Finally, a massive Triton shaman and his summoned fish lizard, a marine reptile of antiquity rediscovered in the Shadow Sea. Meanwhile, the fortune seekers are led by French scientist Marie du Châtelet. She herself is accompanied by a tactical soldier, a heavy support trooper, and a reconnaissance trooper. Marie herself is not a soldier, but she is armed and a brilliant scientist. She is well versed in the new tech being discovered beneath the Shadow Sea. She is determined to recover the lost artifacts in the submersible wreck, while also uncovering clues as to the sinking of the Nautile. I set up a small board representing the sandy plain surrounded by the Gerlach Peaks. The Gerlach Peaks themselves are not represented on the board. There is a strong benthic current running southward, which I have marked. Models can avoid the benthic current by rising into the water column. Increasing or decreasing depth equals one medium stick in height, which then puts the model over the effects of the current. Models can also use an action to fight the current, which eliminates the push. Fish schools and other wild creatures are unaffected by the current. Divers can use their propulsion systems just the way swimming models can use their swimming actions to avoid the current. The battle begins with the Nereids as the attackers. In Deep Wars, all models roll 1, 2, or 3 dice to check for activations. These are based on successes. A model's quality stat is the target number that determines these successes. For solo games, I give enemy models 2 dice as a default. These 2 dice cover the first few activations. Then I switch to 3d6 for the final activations. The Nereids begin moving forward using their long movement. First, the Nereid Guardian, with 2 successes on her activation roll, spends her actions. Having spent no actions to fight the benthic current, she is then pushed back a short stick. The Piskid Salvager is next. By the way, water clarity is 2 long sticks, so visibility in the board is pretty good. Finally, the Piskid also drifts back, having spent no actions to fight the current. The Nereid Treasure Seeker positions herself behind the wreck, just blocking the effects of the current. The Fish Lizard rolls 2 successes, and instinctively, the war beast swims up the water column by a medium stick, thus avoiding the current. Deep Wars is played in a true 3-dimensional space and can be a very detailed game. And finally, it is now the Fortune Seeker's turn. Marie rolls 2 successes and uses one of those activations to move forward and the second to activate her propulsion system to avoid the current's effects. Okay, so turn 1 is over. The Nereids have done pretty well. They used the currents to kind of push them back a little bit. Some of them lost a little bit of movement because of the way the current is going. But to avoid the effects of this bottom current, models can go up 1 depth higher. I have to put some dice here to represent the depths. So these guys avoided the effects of the current's push. Now the Fortune Seekers didn't do as well. They strategically did let the currents push them a little bit closer to the sub here, trying to avoid those leg-severing barnacles. But then I rolled a pair of 2s for 2 activation points. And so this diver here had 2 failures. And anytime you have 2 failures, it goes over to the other side. So it's going to go to the other side now. And yeah, this mechanic is very much the same mechanic as Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes, because it's the same author. By the way, one note in the game, I do like representing my depth changes with these plastic cups that I detailed with a little bit of hot glue, and they're very close to a medium stick in height, which means because all depth increments are a medium stick in the game, it works out perfectly. And the cups do maneuver nicely over terrain because they're open on the bottom. So it's just my way of representing depth changes. The Nereid Guardian rolls 1 success and uses that to hold her position against the current. She does not move. Meanwhile, the Treasure Seeker swims up the water column, then moves the rest of her move over the wreck. Close to the Treasure Seeker, the Triton Shaman is swimming over the battlefield. He uses his 3 successes to move around the wreck, forming a protective barrier against the incoming Fortune Seekers. The Triton hovers menacingly over the seafloor. According to version 1.8 of the rules, which is what I am using, models typically have to spend an action to change direction. However, when playing solo, and when a swimming model, such as this creature, is in the water column, I am far less restrictive with those rules. What I do is I allow the models to move freely and to change direction, spending an action point for each of their long moves that they actually accomplish. And I do allow more than 1 move if there are successful activations. Okay, the Fortune Seeker is quality 4. He manages to get 2 actions. So he shoots up into the water column with his propulsion system, and he has just enough range, short range, to fire his multiple barreled cannon there into the Lord of the Seas. So let's see what happens. So the diver has a +1 to his shooting because of the weapon. He's not going to do a called shot. This is going to go to the body of the Lord of the Seas, the shaman. He's a shaman. So it's just going to default to the body. You can make called shots. However, some weapons do get penalties when you do called shots. But it is a way to take down a model quicker. Now, we're both combat 4. I get a +1 for the weapon. I get a +1 because he is big. So that's a +2 to my roll. He gets no pluses on the defense for right now. And if I manage to knock him down, if I get a knockdown result, it means that he's going to go down quickly, down this depth level quickly. And so he's going to have to roll basically to see if he gets the bends. And that's because he's an amphibious model. White dice is going to be the diver. He gets +2 and +0 on the black dice. Okay, so 5, straight up 5, plus his combat of 4 is 9. 4 plus 2 is 6. Plus his combat of 4 is 10. So I beat him by 1. And now checking the actual roll is a 4. A 4, 5, or 6 means that the model is fallen. And this is the only time we actually check the roll, not the total. Needless to say, the shaman falls 1 depth level quickly because he's fallen. He's also dazed. And we're just going to put him down here. Now he has to roll to see if he gets the bends. This could actually take him out. We'll see. Okay, so to check for biotrauma, we need a resistance roll. His resistance is 4. That's going to be the target number. He's going to need 4s. We check for numbers of successes and failures. Now he gets a -1 because he dropped 1 level. So we roll the first resistance check. Okay, so at -1, that means 2 successes, 1 failure. With 2 successes, he acclimates to the new depth without a problem. However, he is fallen. He will remain fallen and dazed. If I have the chance to attack him again, he will have a penalty while fallen. But he doesn't get the bends. He doesn't get biotrauma. If I had failed, I would have to roll again to see if I get the bends, and basically the model is removed on 2 failures. Marie can see the form of the behemoth fall to the sandy bottom. She rolls an activation check with 2 dice and gets 2 actions. Marie makes it to the hulking Triton. Let's look at the modifier table for a moment. Attacking a fallen foe gives a +2 to the attacker. More importantly, a model is killed merely by losing to an attacker by 1. This is regardless of armor. So Marie really only needs to beat her foe. I roll for Marie using the white d6, rolling a 4. The Triton rolls a 6. After adding combat scores and other modifiers, the fallen Triton successfully fends off Marie's melee attacks. Her mechanical claws retract without grabbing onto the Triton. Not too far away, one of the soldiers rolls 2 failures, and the turn passes to the Nereids. This is an important mechanic in the game. The Triton rolls 2d6, scoring 2 successes, using 1 to rise from the seafloor. Now, the Triton towers over Marie and attacks her with his trident. After all modifiers, Marie fails to defend the attack, and she falls. In addition, Marie's armor is only 1 around her body, so she takes a wound. Since the Triton beat her by well over 1, she is wounded. And this is not to mention the armor break value of the Trident, which is a 3. But the Nereid Shaman is not finished. When he wounds a model, he can follow up with another attack. I roll a 6 for Marie and add her combat score of 3, and after all modifiers, the Triton wins again by 1 point. However, instead of killing Marie, he grabs her firmly. She panics, still dazed, a cloud of bubbles blowing out of her breathing apparatus. Okay, this game is almost over. We have Marie, who's been grabbed by the Lord of the Seas, the shaman, and her life is in danger. We have a mermaid that's just about to go into the sub to deal with that angry eel and maybe get the treasure. Lizardfish is now challenged up high in the water column, has challenged this diver who now cannot help poor Marie. And then we have a mermaid which has come up here close to the fortune seekers. However, the one trooper only got 1 success, and so he could only move. He couldn't shoot at her. And then we have this trooper here, this reconnaissance trooper. He is quality 4, and he actually failed 2 successes. So now the turn passes over to the Nereids. And it's looking actually not too bad for the Nereids. They may take an objective win once they take the treasure. We also have this Piskid, this fish person here, who is hiding, still hiding behind the sub-wreck here. Well, it looks like the Nereids may take victory. They may. Okay, well, the game has been resolved. So this is the post-game, and I'm just going to summarize what happened. Well, we noticed that the giant Triton is no longer here with Marie. What happened to Marie? Well, what happened was I decided that the Triton did not crush Marie as he could have. Instead, he kidnaps her. So he grabbed her. He has the grab trait with his claw. So as with a successful attack, he can grab his opponent. So basically, he just moved out the board with his prize. Now Marie, the French scientist, is a prisoner of the Nereids. Now I'm assuming he's going to take her to a cave or somewhere where there's oxygen, where she can take off her her helmet and breathe oxygen. We have a mermaid here, the treasure seeker, who went into the wreck of the sub, and she was positioned up here very strategically throughout most of the game. She kills the angry eel without a problem, and she, being a salvager, she gets to roll 2 treasure rolls because she's a salvager. So that means she gets 2 pieces of treasure from this submarine wreck, and she's well within a long stick of moving out of the board, giving the Nereids a scenario victory. We have the Piskid warrior here, which is like a fish person who moved up the rock, made himself known. The lizard fish, who was up in the water column, wins his fight over the fortune seeker, who then plummets down 1 depth level. He fails his first res check to see if he acclimates to the change of depth, and then he has 3 failures on his check to see if he gets the bends. And unfortunately, this diver dies horribly from the bends. So because of the fight with the fish lizard, who is triumphant. Now, as soon as this Triton leaves the table, this fish lizard also leaves the table because he was a summoned creature by the Triton. Now, this mermaid, she was a Nereid guardian. She took a headshot, so unfortunately she's dead, very dead. It was a gruesome kill, but the Triton was the only individual in line of sight of her, really, and it was too far away, so he wasn't affected morale-wise. And she was too busy looking for treasure, so she had no line of sight to the gruesome kill. And, well, we only have 2 divers left. Now, these divers did very little, unfortunately. They failed a couple of their rolls, activation rolls, so they end up going back into the submersible. Now, this poor diver failed his resistance roll, so he's not going to roll on the survival table. In this game, you do get to roll on a survival table for personalities and all other models to see if they actually die. But he's a goner. Okay, so our mermaid is a salvager, so she gets to roll twice on this table. She gets a 6, so she gets ether crystals, a valuable outcropping of ether crystal, the power source for all tech. These are worth 2 victory points. 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have inoperable ether treasure artifact. These devices do not function but are required for parts when developing new tech items, worth 2 victory points. So 4 victory points in total just due to the treasure. So there you have it, folks. Deep Wars. This was the 1.8 version, so it is the older version of the game. I have that game as a hard copy, so that's usually the game I play. There is a newer version that I do own as well. So Deep Wars is a game that really has influenced my scratch building tremendously over the years, and I really enjoy it. It is a little tough to play solo because of all the detail, but I do have a way of playing it now solo, which I will introduce later. And of course, there's Shadow Sea, which is the game that came before this one. And Shadow Sea is also very interesting. And it has solo rules too. It's fully compatible with Deep Wars. So, all right, folks, thank you very much. I hope you like my little ocean table here. It was a lot of fun playing here. And I'll talk to you guys very soon. I'll have more little one-shot games like this and more on Deep Wars specifically. The next Scratch Builder Monthly is going to be dedicated. It's going to have an article, a big article on Deep Wars and all the things that I've made for Deep Wars, all right? Have a great one, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. The Triton activates its engines and quickly rises up the water column. A shaky start at first, but the submersible speeds off. The crew dreading to have to report the capture of Marie back home.